What's happening? Today we're going to cover which visa can I work in America. Folks, welcome to Green Card Guys TV. I'm your host, John Ting, and this is what we're going to talk about. Different options for you because most people think that there's no option at all. So apologize, just getting started a bit later. I'm trying to figure out my Instagram, get that going, but that phone got shut down. So anyway, or turned off. Let's see here. So the main work visas that I want to talk about and share with y'all is something called e-visa, which generally is called like an investor visa. But essentially, you're coming here to work. Okay. And there's another one called L visa. Now, I just had a consultation yesterday about these two visas, at least starting with, and what's it called? Sorry, I'm trying to go live on Instagram as well. Okay, so the and some people have the option to do both or one or the other. Okay, and some people don't. So I just want to make sure. Okay, of course, when I look frozen there for a second, it looked a little strange there, but yeah, I just wanted to share with y'all these options. L visa is traditionally there's two categories for L visa, and that is LA, and that's for executive or manager, and LB is for someone who has more employee that has specialized knowledge. Of course, in the meantime, if you have any questions, you're welcome to drop a question into the comment section, even if it's not related to today's topic. But having a topic, of course, helps to share something very intentional with you. Okay, and now the other visa, e-visa, as I mentioned earlier, is more like an investor visa. You do have to invest a certain amount of money. Now, I'm going to break down some misconceptions here with these two visas. The first one is the e-visa. Some people think, well, do I have to invest a certain amount of money? It's not like the EB5. EB5 is very, very specific. It's at least 800,000. It used to be 500,000, but that's the lower threshold is only if you go through a regional center, basically like a fund manager. But you don't have to invest with EB5. Of course, EB5 is quote unquote intended to be the fast track for the green card, but for those that are going through this process or at least consult with an attorney, I think you've come to realize it's not actually that fast. So why pay that much money if you can help it, if you could have it go through a different way? But part of it could be because if you originally want to do something like E2, you have to be from have a country of nationality from a very specific list. Okay, so welcome to go to our website and click on the investor visa guide. It has that list there. Now, I can share, someone just asked the other day, India is not on that list, unfortunately. Okay. And of course, communist countries are not on that list. So that's something to be concerned of, because I know there's a lot of Indian nationals that live in the UK right now and ask about that. And no, that's not possible, unfortunately. So you do want to check if you're even part of the E visa list. They call it treaty visa, essentially, is another name for it. So sorry folks, if you have, I have a bit of a poor internet connection for some reason, poor signal. So please bear with me. But I do see some great questions. I'll get to that soon. So anyway, back to L visa. That option is if you're executive or manager. So for LA, and then LB classification, if you are a person that has more specialized knowledge, it could be like having a technical background, for example, like maybe an engineer. So you don't have to be a supervisor, just someone that knows technical knowledge, as an example. But it doesn't have to be technical knowledge. So that's anyway. So, and for e-visa, look, the investment amount depends on the type of company you are trying to operate. It can, number one, so for example, if you're trying to invest in a restaurant, that likely is going to cost a lot more upfront cost investment than like a a sales type company, right? Whereas you might need to actually have more of a square footage to pay for rent, um, also more of upfront costs in terms of at least budgeting for how many employees or workers you want to hire. So it really depends on the business. So that's why for the law on e-visas, it doesn't have like a minimum, but I just always suggest at least 50,000. And whatever amount you're considering, I would 3x it, pick 3x that amount, because when you come to America, maybe you're already at this point at the time you have filed your application, all right, for the e-visa. But then when you come to America, get approved and come to America, and you're like, oh crap, it's gonna actually cost way more. So it's beyond what you had considered. So that's why it's also a good reason to contact us, because we have referrals for business attorneys that can walk you through the process. I remember when I had a office in Dallas, or at least back then, and someone had come into the office and said, "Hey, John, can you take a look at this lease I signed?" I was like, "When did you sign this already? Holy crap!" And it turns out in the lease transaction, it said "as is." Folks, if there's one, I'm not a business lawyer. I mean, I can help with that, of course, but we practice immigration law primarily. But the thing is, if you're going to sign a lease, or at least consider signing a lease, make sure, try not to sign one that says "as is." Okay, and this particular one that I recall, it said basically like says it said "as is," and the city needed that premises to have some kind of a sprinkler system. The landlord was not going to pay for it. So that's just an example. You really need to consider talking, at least having a consultation with a professional before, maybe even before you apply or before you sign any document, legal document. Okay, folks. So this is just in general. This is just not a tip only for immigration, because sometimes signing a document like a lease can put you in a financial hole that you could have prevented. Right, folks? So that's something you should consider. Now, so I know there's several folks who just sent in a comment here. But of course, if you have any questions about anything, drop in the comments. And if you didn't know, so this is one reason why we offer a free 15-minute consultation. It's because I know that you may have already had a lawyer, or you consulted one, and you just had maybe bad advice, or you just want a second, third, fifth, 20th opinion. I get it, no problem. But not every lawyer is able to explain it the way it's understandable to you. So it's not saying that previous lawyer said anything wrong. It's just that maybe it didn't resonate with you. Okay. I know I talk kind of fast these days on the live show, and I apologize. But most of the time, I hope so. 99% of the time in consultations, when I do have the opportunity to chat with one of y'all, um, I really try to take my time to convey the legal situation. Sometimes it's a consequence, like a 10-year bar, or maybe a Child Status Protection Act issue, which USCIS did change some of the policy, not policy, but how it's calculated a bit a couple months ago. So I'll probably record a video about that. But let's see here on the EV. So stick with me, folks. I'm going to answer some of your questions soon. on the but on the e-visa front, okay, for that option, it really depends. Number one, depends on which country you're a national of. All right. Then number two is the tip here is just don't assume that even if you select a franchise company, you could open on your own completely. It doesn't have to be through a franchise company at all. But typically, it's supposed to be easier, at least to get started, because they already have the marketing. So and things like that. But in the benefits of having a franchise, right? For just an easy example is like Starbucks, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A. Of course, they all have their own different rules internally on how they choose a franchisee owner like yourself. But the thing is, you don't want to assume that even if it's more of a smaller franchise type company, and maybe you might consider them because it's a lower franchise fee to go with them, and that's completely fine. But the thing is that don't assume that just because you sign up to be a franchisee, that the franchisor the main company is going to do everything. You still have to review the language on the document, the legal document, on actually what they provide. Because I've known people who sign a franchisee document to say they're going to open shop in a certain region of the state or so, or city in let's say like Dallas, Texas, for example, and come to find out they had no protections and they didn't really get that much support. So there's so many companies out there. Take your time, okay? Review it. Make sure you start investing in a company that is appropriate for you. Because there's some companies where, like Chick-fil-A, they require you to actually work rather than just supervise. I mean, you're supervising, but it's a lot more manual labor than other type of companies, right? So if you're coming to America, I know some of the elder folks kind of from different countries, certain countries don't actually want to work that much, because when you come to America, you gotta pay your taxes. So unfortunately, you gotta pay taxes, you gotta work. So that's the whole thing, right? I know that's what's going on in France, a whole uproar about their version of Social Security, I guess their pension. So that's a very unfortunate situation going on over there, for one way or another. But yeah, you really have to think about your long-term plan. It's not just the visa application itself. Okay, at least with e-visa. Now, ultimately, I can't cover the whole thing about the whole big picture, but when people ask about these type of visas, e-visa or L1 visa, the ultimate goal for most people is, how do you get residency from those visas? And it is possible. It's more possible through, it's possible for either one, okay? Now, for EB, the most common example for employment-based residency, the most common is as an executive or manager. But there's also ones that are EB3, or it could be, there's really three categories, sub-classification for EB3, professionals, so skilled worker or unskilled worker. So not trying to take any like offense or be offensive, anything about unskilled worker, but I guess some people can consider like an essential worker, where you don't necessarily need a official or formal certification to do their job. I don't know. I guess one most common lately is like the truck drivers, where you need a CDL. Yeah, CDL. Try not to get that confused with CHL, concealed handgun license. So let's see here. So now I'll get to your question, Nabil. All right, on Facebook we got Nabil. I have to go through my topic, otherwise some people won't watch it, right? So I get it. So I'm here to answer your question, Nabil. All right. You had done an interview in January 24th this year. So that's about 2 months ago, right at 2 months after you waited 2 years and a half just for the freaking interview. Sorry I had to wait that long. And until now, you still haven't received any updates. What do I think you should do? You filed the Houston field office. My goodness. Nabil, if it reaches 120 days, okay, so what is that? 4 times 30? 120, yeah, so 4 months. If it reaches 4 months and you still haven't received a decision, you can sue the government. I mean, honestly, you could sue the government now, but they do definitely, like on paper, on the policy manual, USCIS policy manual, you can sue the government, or they basically say sue us when it's 120 days and you still haven't received a decision. Okay. Now, for the most part, we've been very fortunate. Not to say just because people hire us that we get lucky. It's not by luck. It's all by proven checklist, our processes internally, and how we communicate with our stakeholders and clients, that we have been very fortunate that we have received approvals usually in like a day or a week, up to a week usually. Now, it's not going to be that for every client, but because ultimately it's up to the government, right? But Nabil, I wait another 60 days, okay, up to 120 days before you need to sue the government. All right, so hopefully that helps. Oh, you already sued? Oh, you already sued them to get the interview. Well, shoot. Well, I hope your case is still active in a sense, because what we usually do is we tell the U.S. attorney, or we negotiate and tell them, hey, now that we finally got the interview, let's try to keep it, if you don't mind, we keep the case open, active, and for another 30 days or 60. If it's asylum, usually 120 days extra for the decision. But for something like this, probably 30 to 60 days extra open. All right. So Nabil, hopefully your mandamus case is still open, and that if you have an attorney, that attorney could just, talk to that U.S. attorney and say, hey, Nabil, my client just had an interview 2 months, or not just had an interview over 2 months ago. Any update from USCIS? So hopefully that helps. That's what we do. We have certain timing in our systems, so we know, okay, if a due date comes up, we're going to contact the U.S. attorney at this time and the client, of course, to see if they received any notice. And that's usually what happens with us, because we're not the original attorney on the case, like for your naturalization N-400, and that we wouldn't receive the USCIS notice, so we would contact the client first to see if there's been any update, and of course check on the uscis.gov website. My goodness, you waited 2.5 years. Yeah, we've had some clients wait 2 to 4 years just for the N-400. It's pretty ridiculous, but I'm glad you made that decision. Okay. Okay, Nabil, appreciate that you'll call us. It sounds like your prior mandamus case was closed out. But you're in Houston, so what we could do, we could figure out a way. We have some contacts in the Houston U.S. Attorney's Office, so we may be able to just check on it for you. So we'll see. Okay, give us a call. Alrighty, and then let's see. Any other questions? So welcome. If you're just now joining, thanks for saying hello. What's up? So let me know. Hey, let me know where you're watching from. I always think it's interesting how far the YouTube channel has reached. And by the way, if you have gotten some kind of value out of our just chit-chatting here, I always think I'm just talking to myself, but at least my wife thinks I'm just talking to myself, but there's y'all are out there on the other side getting some value here. So if you did get some value, please visit www.reviewtinglaw.com, and we appreciate any feedback, because the more time I spend with y'all, the less time I'm able to help my team. So they greatly appreciate it as well. Now, okay, so back to the E-visa or L-visa. Some of y'all might be fortunate in the sense that you might be eligible for either. Fortunately, the next question is, which one's faster? Fortunately, on the first step, the 129 application, the petition, you can pay for premium processing. If you've been to Disney World or you heard of it, I think they changed the name, but they had like a rapid pass, so you pay an extra fee. This is essentially to skip the line. This is essentially the same thing with USCIS, except the fee with USCIS and the premium processing to receive a decision or RFE, it's within 15 business days. It costs an extra $2,500. So it's a pretty penny. But look, if you're in an L1, or if you're being sponsored for L1, or you're trying to sponsor your employee on L1, and you're a business owner, you can afford it. Okay, you can afford the $2,500. So essentially, because the default otherwise is average processing time of 6 months. So if you need that particular worker or employee to get going in America to start or for yourself, then paying the premium processing is probably a really smart idea in that sense. And then that's only step one, though. Step two essentially is for the Department of State for the interview, okay? So that you can obtain that visa. The USCIS approval notice is not the visa, okay? That's just for step one. So it's a two-step process. I was just checking for a consulate yesterday. I can't remember which consulate, but the wait time after you apply for DS-160, it showed 3 calendar days. So that's pretty good. Whereas I checked for like New Delhi, India, it was like 27 days, something like that. So there's a significant difference. I think that was, for L visa. And they've done better, actually. The Department of State has done better, and they segregate the data, which type of visa, and shows the amount of time that you have to wait, the amount of days you have to wait for the interview. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea. Well, folks, I'd love to chat more, but I got a meeting very soon, and I see on my phone, at least, the signal is not cooperating. So in the meantime, if you do have any questions and I wasn't able to answer you for any reason, please give us a call. All right. You're welcome to give us a call, or you could go to our website, greencardguys.com, and go all the way down to the website. If you want a free guide, we don't have a free guide for every scenario, but it does cover common answers to common questions and an estimated step by step. So at least you have some information if you want to get that before you give us a call. Okay. All right, folks. Thank you so much, and y'all have a wonderful day.